Welcome to Crazy Dreamers TV, the Businesses for Good show. Hi, I'm Kathy Wong and I'm your host and producer for the show. This is the show that shares the stories of amazing entrepreneurs who've dared to dream crazy and they've created businesses that are impacting the world. Today I'm super excited because I have a man here who is a social engineer. I know some of you are asking and Rob will tell us about that in a moment. But Rob Caslick has a beautiful business called Too Good, and I love this business for two reasons. The first reason is it's about food, something I'm so passionate about. The second is that for every meal that Rob serves, a woman from a domestic violence shelter actually gets a meal. So Rob Caslick, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So Rob, I'd like to start off by asking that burning question that I have. What is a social engineer?
So I was an engineer, full-time engineer,
Right.
and my title was project engineer. And I've always kind of, dabbled in the social sector. And then I had to change my LinkedIn profile and I didn't put much thought into it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm an engineer. I didn't really classify myself as a social entrepreneur. And so I just put social engineer. There's no other kind of deep story than making it up on the spot.
I'm a chief energy
how I roll.
officer,
Yeah,
and people
exactly.
always ask me what energy company you
What
no,
energy company you work, yeah.
But look, engineers are meant to be boring.
I
What's
know.
going on?
Well,
you
I am
don't fit
pretty
the
boring.
mold.
Yeah, no.
I don't think so.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I love engineering. I love a problem solver. I think
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver. I like to solve problems. And in fact, when I did my master's, we had some creative people who had just come up with these amazing answers to these solutions. And whereas I kind of had to create a problem to solve it, I need to. That's my engineering kind of process brain, I think.
Yeah, I totally relate to that
Yeah.
because I have a design background,
Yeah.
and it's really all about problem solving, not
Yeah.
about drawing or what
Yeah.
people think are those
Yeah.
more creative aspects to it.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah.
to just be able to come up with a really cool idea without trying to kind of look anyway.
I think
Maybe
it's
not.
pretty cool, Rob, so you just keep it at that. Now, tell me, this compassionate heart of yours,
Yeah.
speaking to other crazy dreamers like yourself, and I've got to say, you're probably the craziest dreamer we've had on the show
Really?
yet. Yes.
Is that an
Just
honour or I'm not sure?
No,
about that?
it's definitely an honour. It's definitely an honour. But how did this come about? Was it something that, you were born into a family that always displayed this and, facilitated that in your life? Or was there a defining moment that happened for you?
That's a good. I get asked that question quite a bit, Kathy, and I don't really have an answer. I mean, so my grandfather used to have a very simple man, humble beginnings, but we used to always sit around a table together and have a beautiful meal. And I think that essence of what he created. So often breakfast would roll into lunch, and we're just going to sit around as a family and just talking and perhaps idolizing, my grandfather. And I think that really distilled into me that kind of family unit and also that kind of coming together around a table. And then, so I've always kind of liked food and liked the way that people came together around. But then my grandmother took me to a soup kitchen when I was in year 12. And I really and she was also quite a compassionate person. But my mum and dad love them dearly, but they were never really involved in charity or in social. But my grandmother took me to a soup kitchen when I was in year 12 and I really enjoyed it. I really liked what was going on there. And so I've always kind of dabbled in, throughout my career, kind of done a lot of work and as a volunteer. But I always knew that's where the heart was. I think that's where I felt at, where I could do the best or where I could be the happiest, really. So it's kind of almost a selfish thing that I'm doing because I'm, it's where I'm the most happiest as well.
I love that. I love the fact that you've said that's when you're at your happiest because I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, you get it.
I totally get that, and it's hard for other people to understand.
Yeah, why would you do
right?
that?
Yeah, my father all the time says, "Why are you doing this, daughter?"
Yeah.
and says you should be going out and enjoying yourself.
Yeah,
But I am.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And what was the soup kitchen I set up. I actually originally set it up, and my two mates I set it up with, one's now an orthopedic surgeon and one's an orthodontist, and they're kind of, making big salaries. I'll never earn that, but some of the impact that we see and some of the emails or anecdotes we get from the women that we work with, that's my $1 million. That's where I, and
priceless.
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
kind of like you can't put money on that.
Hi, I'm Angie and I'm the head chef here at Too Good. I'm really passionate about my job because I really believe that a good meal, that everyone deserves a good meal. We make a lot of difference to people's lives here through food. And I really want to share a story about one of the women. She came to us from a domestic violence shelter, and she'd been through really tough times. She had an extremely abusive, controlling husband who didn't allow her to leave the house. She came here to us at Too Good after living here in Australia for 6 years, never being allowed to leave the house, and never had worked here. She came here, she did our 3-month program, she cooked, she came to work, and we were able to find her full-time employment. So now she's living on her own in her own place, full-time employed, and soon to get her son back. So that's a real success story for us, and it's a success story that we keep seeing. So it really makes it all worth it.
So then tell us about then the why behind what you're doing.
So yeah, I never set out to work in women's services really. So it started as a soup kitchen, and then the whole idea was how do we scale what we do without asking for money. So a traditional charity, I raise money to give out food. The more money I raise, more food I can give it out, but it's kind of not really sustainable financially. And so we thought, well, the kitchen that we worked at, every day or each week they serve about 1,000 meals. It's an amazing service in St Canisters, and we just do the Wednesday night. So I thought, well, and what we were doing is an organic offering. So for not being fancy, we're just kind of serving food that's as clean as possible. Because when you serve food that you'd eat yourself, you provide more than food. You provide dignity and self-respect and self-worth. And so we had this really beautiful kind of event thing happening. And so thought, well, let's scale it. How do we scale this? And how do we try to turn the whole of the kitchen operation, 1,000 meals a week, into this really beautiful kind of sharing a meal together and providing dignity, not just food. And so, yeah, that was my big dream at the time. And I think, I think I sold 6 soups in the first week, while about 994 short of where I was supposed to be. And so I reached out to Women's Service up around the corner and said, hey, we're doing this thing called Too Good. Would you like one of these soups?
What was the soup, by the way?
It was a spiced pumpkin. So one of the, I know, it was really nice, and we still have it on the menu. So one of our volunteers, her dad was Greg Doyle of the famous Doyle family. And so
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips, yeah. But so Greg had Pier Restaurant, which was at the time Australia's highest rated, or New South Wales highest rated restaurant. So it's really kind of fancy. So he's a really great caliber chef. And so he designed 3 recipes for us. We thought they were really beautiful. And yeah, we offered them Women's Service, and then didn't know anything more. We kind of next week we might have sold 10 or 20, and we kept kind of going until the idea was until we actually wasn't able to do 100, we can completely take over one lunchtime and build it from that. But what ended up happening was I got a phone call from another Women's Service to say, hey, I heard what you're doing up the road there. Can we have some of those soups? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So we gave them soups. Another Women's Service, and for something I was going, what's going on here? And
so then, you grew from 6 soups to...
Yeah. Well, yeah, so 6, and then we decided to, and then I looked into domestic violence, because to my knowledge, don't really have a family history of domestic violence. And so I reached out to a lady called Lisa McAdams, and I told her, look, we're providing all this really nice food, but are we actually making a difference here? And she told me the story around this purple bow. So she arrived at women's shelter with nothing. But she was given a toiletry set, and it wasn't the fact there was a toiletry set, it was the fact that it was tied in this neat and purple bow, and the fact that someone had actually gone to the effort of neatening that bow demonstrated that she was of value. And her message to me was really around that small things matter the most, and the fact that we kind of say, how do we jam as much love into the jar as we can? So everything we do is about how do we show more love in that one jar, so that the detail. And it really kind of resonated with the women that we were working with, so we decided to make a commitment to work with women's shelters.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to that, because one of the charities that I have given to when I was facilitating a business networks group, and so we were giving to our local shelter.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to give the women, blankets and toiletries, and they actually came back and said, the best thing you could do for us is actually give us the money to go buy what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got that in the moment. It was like everything that you've just said about the self-worth.
It
was,
really,
really important.
Yeah, really important. And I think and understanding that's when we could have the most social impact with working with women who are in that situation. And then, so we decided once we got to a certain number that one of the other kind of really debilitating things is financials, right? So you kind of cut everything off. You're trying to rebuild your life in Sydney, which is with nothing, which is really bloody hard. And so we said, well, it's not big salaries, but we'll offer the wages, we'll offer employment to the women from the shelters to make the food as well. And so we made the commitment to only employ women from women's services essentially. So we have a head chef and a sous chef, and employ women underneath them from the shelters that we serve to make the food. Yeah.
Fantastic. And
yeah,
then,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. And then you then have the top chefs in Australia. Tell us about that.
So same year where we
How did
started,
that
I was also
come
doing
about?
a few other projects.
Yeah.
And I got there's a thing called the Food for Good Award. So you know when they give out all of the chefs' hats in the
Yes.
Sydney Morning Herald?
Yeah.
So that year, 2 years ago, I was given the Food for Good award. So it was all fancy, it's when all of the Chef of the Year and all that kind of stuff, and I got my award, which is great. I mean, it's nice of the recognition, but for me, the next day, the editor emailed everyone. I said, congratulations on advancing Sydney's culinary scene and all this kind of stuff. But she CC'd everyone, not BCC. So all of a sudden, I had Neil Perry's email, Peter Gilmore's email. So I said, Neil, congratulations on your 54 hats last night. I'm doing this small thing for domestic violence. Would you like to offer a recipe? And no problem, Rob. And then it was like, Peter Gilmore, yeah, I'm doing it. Wow. And so all of a sudden, these kind of the best of the best said yes straight away because I'd got an award, so they kind of there was some kind of credibility there. And then once those people say yes, it's pretty hard for other people to say no. So that was how we kind of got into the.
I love that.
I know, it's a bit sneaky, but capitalising on every moment when
yes.
Relate to trying. You've got to make the most of everything, right? Like
you
as
do
a
when
startup.
you're as a startup. Every bit of help because it's all about brand awareness, isn't it? At first, you can have this fantastic product, service, but if nobody knows about it, it's not going to fly.
Yeah, and so that's exactly. So using the big chefs is great because that's how definitely helps us get media, and it also helps other brands wanting to engage with us. But probably the main reason, and that we've always continued, is that it actually demonstrates to a woman in the shelter that you're worthy of a collecon. Like you might not be able to go and afford one right now, but she designed this for you, and this is exactly for you. So it's the best meal that we can create because it's designed by the best chefs, and that's the kind of message we want to pass
No, it's a
on.
beautiful message because I was also in LA last year and I went to give my time at one of the soup kitchens there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it, the Hippie Kitchen.
No, I haven't.
And I was just so intrigued. I stood there and I looked at the food that they were serving up. It was like beans and rice, and it was really horrible.
Yeah, wow.
And the people that I had to serve, and some of them were saying to me, do you expect me to eat that?
Yeah.
And I'm going, I totally get it,
Yeah.
But my whole view of what I thought it was going to be and going into that was all these people should just be appreciative of they're getting some food,
Exactly, yeah.
But so I saw that firsthand.
Yeah, it's really, and sometimes we still have the soup kitchen and no longer.
Is that in the Cross?
In the Cross,
right.
Yeah, that's where it all started. It still goes every Wednesday night. But yeah, it's also what you're serving up is actually that means something. If you're providing a really beautiful meal, then that's because we think you're really worth it. And if you're providing a crap food that you wouldn't eat yourself, then why would you expect that other person? Because you're actually kind of saying this is what I think you're worth.
You're crap, so you have to eat this food.
And so it's really important to get that right. But I'd love to do some stuff in LA because I think there's the massive imbalance where
you'll need it over there, Rob. You better get over there soon. Tell me then, so what has been, your biggest challenge in setting up this business?
Probably me.
You?
Well, no, but I say it because, once you get into this kind of stuff, I say yes to too much, and Angie and the chefs probably say this and say yes and give me a hard time, but I don't admit it to them. But it's kind of like once you're into something and you can see an issue, then it's really hard to say no to. And I kind of think one of the things I need to get better in is kind of refining my offering or our offering and just doing that really well, as opposed to trying to, because there's that much need, right? So once you start providing food, and one of our challenges that we got into last year, so Too Good's actually a for-profit business. So the whole idea was to have it as a for-profit business, but I was trying to make it work too hard. So it's really hard to give a meal away for every meal you sell, plus employ unskilled staff to make those meals, who have lots of other complex issues, and we're proud to employ them. But at the end of the day, so we had to then set up a foundation to kind of build to share the love, really, and help us do a bit of fundraising to make it work. Yeah. But I think one of the challenges in this space for me, anyway, is trying to sort of pull back and be targeted as opposed to trying to do everything and kind of go really thin. So I think that's definitely been a challenge, and just the standard business startup kind of stuff.
Yes.
I'm a really bad businessman, and so
I don't think you're too bad, Rob, with what you've achieved so far.
I'm quite proud of the marketing and that kind of stuff. don't talk to me about finance.
I'm with you too. It's not an easy. It is. It's such a balancing act.
Yeah.
And I think doing a social business is probably the hardest form of business you can do because,
Yeah.
as you said, you're balancing giving back.
Yeah.
You're balancing, in your case, you're dealing with women who've come from these dreadful situations.
Yeah.
And so you've got a lot to balance up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we're competing with the standard cafe who doesn't have those issues or doesn't have those things they have to work with. And at the end of the day, it's a $14 salad, and it's not like it's a salad. Like it's and it's good food, but it's we're still competing with other kind of cafes in the local area. So
have you found that, I was talking to some other social entrepreneurs about this the other day, I've actually found that the general public expect more of us being a social enterprise than a business that's not giving back. Like you're under a lot more scrutiny. They expect your product to be far better than the other products on the market as well.
I reckon so often people come to us because it's for the social cause. But for me, I really want them to come to us for the business. And I think you're right. I think there is a bit more pressure around exactly what we're doing and making sure it's a really good product. I don't know whether I'm not too sure why that would, why there would be additional pressure. Obviously, there's expectations for us to deliver the other one, which is fine. That's what we sell. But I don't really find additional support on the quality of the produce. I'd certainly hope that people weren't sort of saying, oh, look, they're a charity, we can put up with this, because for me it's really important that it's product first as opposed to charity first. If I have to lead with a charity card, I would, but I very rarely do. I don't like to. I like to lead with this the great Neil Parry salad, and oh, by the way, it's
the charity is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Really, I think if a business is to survive, which I hope we will, you've got to have that product first, and then oh, by the way, it's also a charity.
That's what we found when we first started marketing. We were marketing all the story, and then we realised we had to shift gears, and that it was about the products first, and that's what people were buying for, and then we love the story too, and that's the added
exactly. That's
bonus.
what I tell my friends about. Oh, by the way, they're good in this,
Exactly.
So I think it's a big lesson, I think, for any.
It is.
Social entrepreneurs. Yeah.
It is. Rob, tell us then about, if somebody was interested in starting a social enterprise, because I don't know about you, I get asked this all the time. What is the best piece of advice you could give that person?
Just start. I mean, we sold 6 soups in our first 6 weeks, so just make it really easy and don't hold on. Some people try to make a perfect product before they release, and I think there's you don't want to have a really bad product release, but I think there's a kind of a point where you think, I'm happy with this, and kind of release it slowly and then look to improve it.
You've just got to keep testing, don't you, as quickly as you can.
Yeah, quickly as you can, and just put it out there and just sell. Here's a product. You might only, you got to talk it up. You might only have 4 spare products out the back, but you're a business now, and this is what you're selling, and so just sort of, I think the first step is the hardest, but once you've made that first step, our product is fairly different to what it was when we first started, around the branding and packaging and story and all that kind of stuff has developed, and how we've done it, it's kind of developed. But I think the first step, and I think where people often get stuck, is they don't put it out there. It's an idea, right? It's a good idea, but there's
a lot of fear. They don't want to go ahead because of fear.
And I think if you don't quit your job, I was a full-time engineer right up until last year. I was actually part-time, then I was up until last year, and so just kind of go slow, and have a go, and then if it goes well, then dive in.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And then my final question to you is, what's the next crazy dream?
So, funny you say that.
I knew you'd have an answer for this.
No, so we want to be in every women's service in the country, right? Yeah. So, don't tell anyone, but I don't actually know how many women's services there are in the country. It's just kind of the crazy dream. But I think, but we've estimated it's about 10,000 women who are seeking service at any one time. Yeah, and so, but the challenge we've always had is how do we send, we can't send a soup to Western Australia. Previously we didn't think we could, but not so long ago we were just offered, a large company said, we want you to go and make 20,000 meals, we want you to send them regionally. And for me that was kind of like, wow, we actually could get here now. So there's an offer of 20,000 meals. We've kind of refined our product. I'm going to have these soup satchels that we can refrigerate, and we've got to invest in some infrastructure that we can then start sending all of our products with a 30-day life.
So you're already on your dream.
Yeah, so I think, that's going to be the pilot. So it's 20,000 meals. they'll be the pilot, and then that will help us kind of realise the dream, which is kind of working with any service when we can. Yeah, so that's kind of.
Wow, amazing. Then it'll be
Yeah.
overseas. That's so cool.
Yeah, LA.
Yeah, LA, exactly. So cool.
Yeah.
Now, how can our community help you?
So the best to fuel the machine, or like just to purchase a product, purchase a lunch, to purchase something from our website, and that's kind of the business, right? So I really want Too Good to be in a position where we don't have to take donations or volunteers. We're actually a sort of business that would but to get that scale, and you need kind of more people kind of purchasing your business, purchasing your products, really. So it's really about treating us like a business, understanding what we're doing, and then having trying us out. So I think that's usually my message to people, is to actually have a once a month Too Good Tuesday lunch.
Why not every day, Rob? I'd be
Hey, look,
every
I don't
day.
want to. Slowly.
slowly. Well, look, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Kathy.
sharing all your learnings, and keep
Plenty
on
of
going
learnings.
and keep on crazy dreaming. So guys, that's been another episode. So you can hear the passion here. You can hear that, crazy dreams do happen. And, I think my big takeout out of all of this is just start. If you have an idea and you want to do this, just start. Test as quickly as you can and get out there. And, as a consumer, you can all help. So go out there and start eating Too Good, because it's just too good to resist. Thank you. Crazy Dreamers TV! Okay, Crazy Dreamers TV! Crazy Dreamers TV! Right, Crazy Dreamers TV!
Dreamers TV.